Re-Zero, Volume 6, Chapter 1, Part 1, Immature Negotiations. Right now, the return by death phenomenon was on the third series of loops from Subaru's point of view. The first set concerned the loops related to the badge theft incident on the day of the summoning. The second was centered around the Demon Beast attack on Roswell Manor. This is the third one. I've died twice already, and what do I have to show for it? In the previous loops, Subaru had pieced things together from information gleaned over several run-throughs of Return by Death, managing to break out of seemingly impossible situations. Yet this time, Subaru had blundered to his death not once, but twice. He didn't even have the full picture of what had happened in each loop that led to his death. But even with such paltry gains from Return by Death, he gained one, and only one, solid piece of information. Pedalgees romanticanti. He, the commander of the Oddballs, the Witch Cult, was the root cause of the entire tragedy that had befallen the village and mansion. Eradicating that abominable madman was now the driving force behind all of Subaru's actions. To escape from the loop, he needed to cast a very wide net and dredge the depths of his memory. The hatred that Subaru had accrued from his first and second deaths took the flames of his bloodlust. First, I need to figure out how much time I actually have. The witch cult raid on the mansion and village had taken place in the preceding half a day before Subaru had reached the village. Pathetic details of second death aside, Subaru had arrived in the village at more or less the same time. Working backward from that, I have at most 4.5 days. Upon voicing the words, Subaru ground his teeth at just how little time it was. Considering how long it took to travel from the royal capital to the mansion, that didn't leave him more than 2 days. In that limited interval, he had to stop the witch cult by wringing Pedalgeese's neck. I can cry about it later. Next is figuring out the victory condition for breaking out of these loops. An absolute, unavoidable tragedy would unfold at the mansion and the village, and the witch cult was responsible. The only answer that Subaru could come up with in response to his current fate. I'm going to butcher Pedalgeese. By putting an end to that crafty murderer, that madman, the root of all evil, everything could be saved. And clearing that simple condition required an equally simple solution. In other words, power. Subaru needed a group of his own to face the witch cult under Pedalgeese's command. When he considered that, the military might of the Amelia faction was actually quite meager. In the first place, Subaru had never seen a hint of private troops under the command of Roswell. Perhaps Roswell himself was so powerful that he didn't need an army to defend his territory. Come to think of it, where the hell was Roswell during the attack? Subaru hadn't caught sight of him during his first or second time through the current series of loops. The magic user was gaudy in both appearance and fighting methods. If he'd fought seriously, there would have been clear evidence around the mansion, but no such signs were apparent. The witch cult attacks right when Roswell's away, or maybe Roswell couldn't fight because he was assassinated out of the blue. If it was the latter, then the witch cult had been meticulous, and if it was the former, Roswell had truly dropped the ball. Subaru could only sigh either way. Besides, I still don't know anything about that monster that wrecked the mansion at the end of my second time around. He recalled the sight of the four-legged beast he had caught a glimpse of right before his death, so massive that the creature could have been mistaken for a mansion itself. Its breath froze everything around it. No doubt Subaru had died from the freezing cold, if that monster was part of the witch cult's arsenal. I really don't have enough strength to put up a fight. Barring his way were the witch's disciples, Pedalgeese, and quite possibly that snow-breathing monster as well. The balance of power simply put Subaru at an overwhelming disadvantage. He needed a way to bolster his side, and Subaru knew just the place for that. After dropping by the shops and stalls along Merchant Street, running through the middle strata of the royal capital, Subaru and Rem arrived back at Crucia's mansion right on the cusp of evening. Holding each other's hands under a sky gradually becoming scarlet, they were greeted by Wilhelm at the front gate. "I see you have returned." The aged gentleman, dressed in long-sleeve, formal black clothing, narrowed his blue eyes as he saw the two of them nestled so close. "Sir Subaru, I believe it is the nature of a boy to have a fickle heart, but as an individual, I cannot approve." "What are you talking about, Wilhelm? I'm just holding Rem's hand so I don't get lost. Isn't that right, Rem?" "Yes, of course it is. Subaru's sense of caution is rather lacking, so I would be too worried about what might happen were I to take my eyes and hands off him. Even when we were at the mansion, I couldn't let my guard down." I think that might be overstating it just a little." Subaru and Rem light-heartedly responded to Wilhelm's remark. Subaru smiled weakly after hearing Rem's seemingly earnest reply as he shifted his gaze to the area in front of the mansion's entrance. "Seems like someone's meeting with Crush again." He was looking at the dragon carriage outside the iron-barred front gate as he posed the question. The carriage lacked showy ornamentation, but was still somewhat refined, no doubt to display the owner's status. Subaru saw that the red land dragon drawing it along had a very glossy scaled hide. The driver, wearing formal clothes of his own, did not engage in pleasantries beyond a simple acknowledgment with his eyes. "Correct. Now that she is participating in the royal selection, Lady Crush cannot refuse those who request an audience with her. Of course, she invited some of them herself. Guess all sorts come out of the woodwork to meet with a potential future king. Well, I guess even people like that have their own problems." Wilhelm broke into a wan smile as Subaru briskly stated the facts, but then the old man's face twitched. His blue eyes peered into Subaru's, seemingly searching for something. "Sir Subaru, have you had some change of heart while you were away?" "Eh? What is it all of a sudden? Did I become a lady killer in the 2 or 3 hours I was gone?" "You wear the visage of a man haunted by an ordeal, and one of no small consequence." Subaru responded to the words with nonchalance, but his expression changed. It shifted from a vague smile to a real one. "Oh, Wilhelm, you big kidder. What, you think I went through some kind of weird transformation?" "It is difficult for me to call it a minor change. There must be a reason why there is now such a dark glint in your eyes. I understand it better than most." As the man nodded, Subaru realized that he had never taken a good look at Wilhelm's eyes. Wilhelm was an individual seething with hatred against someone for some unforgivable sin, which is no doubt why he had noticed the flames of hatred burning within Subaru. "Are you going to kick me out?" "No. It is no doubt best to let you do whatever you wish, Sir Subaru. I much prefer you as you are now, rather than how you were but a short time ago." The two exchanged dark smiles. Though neither shared what tormented him on the inside, they understood each other, at least on the surface. "Subaru, you're making a bad face." Ow, ow, ow! Hey, Rem, you'll tear it off!" The pair's excessively dark exchange was interrupted when Rem painfully pulled on Subaru's ear. "Please do not give me reasons to worry." "Hey, it's super rare for you to ask for something, but you're being way too vague. In any case, you can relax. I'll deal with everything from here on out, somehow." Rem, unable to keep track of the conversation, had grown concerned. Subaru poured as much affection as he could into a smile. Now that he knew what he needed to do, Subaru didn't feel apprehensive at all. After all, it was reassuring to know that the only thing he had to do was murder someone. So Subaru wondered why Rum's face seemed even more concerned than before. Her eyes showed her hesitation, but just before she said something, "It would appear that the guest will be taking his leave." As Wilhelm murmured, a man exited the mansion's entry hall and began striding toward them. He was a tall man with long blonde hair, clad in formal clothing with sophisticated trimmings. He was probably 30 years old, give or take. He had an air of capability about him. The man casually acknowledged their gazes as he reached the front of the gate, touching the well-groomed beard on his chin. My, what unusual people." The visitor's smile was warm. His manner of speaking was gentle, and he had a low, beautiful voice that seemed to naturally filter into people's minds. He gave them a friendly look, but Subaru did not recognize him. Naturally, this brought furrows to the young man's brow. "Ah, pardon my rudeness. I am called Russell Fellow. I hope we can see more of each other in the future. Subaru Natsuki." "Thank you kindly. Incidentally, how do you know my name? Someone give it to you? Anonymity is more my speed, so if my name gets around, I'll be too embarrassed to go about my business." "Just a little something I had heard through the grapevine. After all, you are a famous man who declared himself the knight of Lady Amelia, candidate at the Royal Selection Conference. That being said, few are aware that this very person is currently staying at Lady Crush's residence." Subaru was guarded, but Russell displayed no ill will in his face. Even so, Subaru was cautious of what might be hidden in the reply. The man seemed to be intentionally engaging him with a verbal joust, which made it hard for Subaru to like him. The atmosphere was steadily worsening when Wilhelm briskly interrupted with an aside. "Mr. Russell, did your meeting with Lady Crush go well?" Russell shrugged and shook his head. "Unfortunately, no. Lady Crush is a remarkably strict person. She turns rather sharp eyes towards us, and she is quite strict in her views. Judging from events to date, swaying her will not be easy." "Is that so? How unfortunate. If you have not yielded, it will be difficult to make others agree." "With a noble title, and you on her side, I think it is the other candidates I should pity, Mr. Wilhelm. You call yourself Wilhelm Trace now, yes?" Wilhelm nodded in response to Russell's words, lowering his deeply wrinkled face. "As I am now, nothing good will come from invoking the name of my wife's family. You are very strict as well, so much so that I am mightily impressed as someone who cannot live in the same fashion. That being said, allow me to cheer on your side." The conversation, which was inscrutable from the outside, came to an end, and Russell walked to the dragon carriage in the front gate. Then, just before climbing in, he looked back and said, "Should Lady Crush succeed in her current endeavors, we would feel nothing but delight. It would help achieve your great ambition as well, Mr. Wilhelm. I have high hopes." With that, Russell climbed aboard the dragon carriage. Wordlessly, the driver saluted and spurred the land dragon to a run. Like the man holding the reins, the land dragon was very unsociable and surprisingly silent as it galloped away. Subaru watched the dragon carriage fade into the distance as he asked Wilhelm about the visitor. "Wilhelm, who was that guy?" "Russell Fellow, treasurer for the Merchants Guild operating here in the royal capital. In name, he is a merchant like any other, but he is a crafty manipulator of both legitimate and unscrupulous movements of goods in the capital. It'd be wise to assume he knows more about you than simply your name, Sir Subaru." "Ugh. It's downright creepy to have an older man interested in me instead of a girl." I share that sentiment. Now then." After his response to Subaru's casual banter, Wilhelm turned to face them once more. Mr. Russell was the last visitor for today. I had thought to finally head in, but did you have something you wish to discuss, Sir Subaru? Subaru scratched his face, feeling awkward about throwing off Wilhelm's plans. That said, beating around the bush wasn't going to help anything. Sorry, but I'm the last visitor for today. I want to have a talk with Krush. The topic is whether she would lend me a hand with something.